Breaking news here on Daily Delivery, back a lot sooner than I thought I would be. Phil Miller joins me, Star Tribune beat writer. Phil, we have learned Wednesday that the Twins are not, in fact, for sale. They have added a couple of limited partners, some investment groups, but the Pohlad family is retaining its principal ownership. I think that's a surprise at this point, and not great news, I would say, for most of at least the loudest Twins fans that I talk to.
Yes, not for the loud ones. Yeah, it was a big surprise. I, like a lot of reporters, check in on that every few weeks as this process has dragged on, and had heard that it was gathering momentum. We heard Rob Manfred say last month at the All Star game that there will be a transaction, and he certainly made it sound like um, there was going to be a sale. And I'm still kind of gathering information, but I think it's entirely possible that that was the understanding at the time, and that this change of heart, change of plans has well. Uh, Joe Pohlad said it came together pretty recently, very recently, and I I think that's probably pretty accurate. I wonder if a week ago they were sure that this was or 2 weeks ago they were sure that this was the direction that they were going to take. But it it is a surprise, and yes, it will not be met with nearly the jubilation that I'm sure that Joe himself feels.
Are they aware of their intense public relations problems with fans right now?
To an extent, I think, although I doubt that I doubt that Joe reads Twitter or X or checks out what they're saying on Instagram about him.
Probably for the best for him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he did say things like, this could not have worked out uh, better.
I saw
Uh,
that. I was like, that's not going to go over well.
and yeah, and I thought, uh, I am sure that is true within the family. Uh, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of pushback on that sentiment outside of it. I don't. I do think he is somewhat aware that of the unpopularity problem that he has. Uh, just because of the payroll and how they have kept a lid on it.
So this is. Do we have a sense yet of like what changed? I mean, it seemed like all along, at least Joe himself was having cold feet, or he wasn't the one driving a lot of the sales stuff in the beginning. I think it felt like it was kind of the whole family. It was like the majority of them wanted to explore this, and there were even rumblings along the way that hey, could he still stay in charge of the team even after the sale stuff like
Yeah.
that? Like, what do you think happened along the way that got us to this conclusion instead of another one? And he probably is the happiest among most of anybody in the family.
Yeah. I mean, Joe makes no bones about the fact that he's a big fan, and Joe feels about the team the way I would if I owned a team. It's a pretty cool job, and I really like it, and the competition is fun, and I think he is very much a fan as much as a businessman, which is probably good and bad. Um, but I don't think he's the only one. It was certainly clear. I told him it was certainly clear in October when he announced that the team was for sale. His body language was, "This wasn't my idea," and
Yeah.
there's a real story about the family dynamics that I would sure love to tell someday, but you know, I wouldn't want to write anyone to write that story about my family, so I don't know if anyone's going to come forward. But there are 10 of them with an ownership stake, and I don't know, half a dozen littler ones that will someday apparently now inherit that as well. Um, and I think there was a wide variety of opinions. I suspect what is really behind this was they they had built a fairly large debt over the past few years. Um, that is why, especially when they lost the TV contract, that is why Joe ordered the payroll to be reduced before last season, and
We call it right sizing, Phil. Can we please use the right terminology?
we do, and it is, it's the cause of many of his public relations problems. But I think they found a way. They found investors willing to put up money to. He wouldn't say how much, but I would assume they have wiped that debt with the sale. Who didn't want control? Who were okay with letting them run the business themselves, and Joe specifically. That's the people who buy sports teams, normally want to be in charge. So that the finding those sort of investors probably was pretty difficult. But when it became clear that they could do that, which apparently they have, I'll bet it wasn't a really tough sell for Joe to tell the rest of the family, we could do this. Maybe I think we all had assumed there must be cash flow problems within the family, and maybe it was mostly just within the twins. I don't. There's a lot of this we don't know.
So I think the concern now would be from a fan standpoint that if you have a brand new ownership group, a brand new majority owner, someone who comes in would certainly have run this as a business to an extent, but would think of this as kind of probably like a fancy, fun toy, and maybe want to juice up payroll. Someone like an Ishbia, if he had come in and bought the team. When you bring in a couple of minority investors, they're not looking at this as a fun new toy. They're looking at this probably as a business investment. And so if the Pohlads are running the team a certain way already, and then you have a business investment where people are going to want to see a return on their investment. Are we headed towards even potentially leaner times? Like I talked to our colleague Bobby Nightingale on the podcast last week, even before this was even probably likely. This was unlikely at this point, but he was saying if the Pohlads keep this team, I could see Joe Ryan. I could see Pablo Lopez getting traded this offseason and going to a full kind of teardown. Where do you think they are, like, competitively? Where's the payroll going to be in kind of this revamped structure?
Yeah, we really don't know the fallout from this, and certainly the fan base, you can't blame them. Was hoping for deep pockets who mostly bought it because they want to have a parade and would spend whatever it took. The Mets have that. Why can't we? But it's interesting. The presence that most of the money made by investing in pro sports is by franchise valuations,
Right.
ever expanding. The Pohlads are a great example of that themselves. So if the new investors are in for that reason, then maybe the every year's balance sheet isn't that important to them. If it is, and if you just say, hey, we've paid off the debt, let's not create another one, that could be touchy. That could be are they suddenly the Guardians, the Tigers that don't feel like they have the money to spend? I can't say that given what we've seen the last few years, that I would be real optimistic. And I can tell you, I wouldn't betray any confidences, but there was a sort of a morgue humor in the clubhouse lately about, how much does that sandwich cost? When are they going to start charging us? And look around and who might not be here next year. But the proof will come soon enough. I asked Joe specifically, is the payroll going up or down next year? And he said, we talk about that when the season's over. It's not. We'll see. So perhaps he doesn't even know the ramifications. He probably doesn't want to speak too soon before the new ownership setup is approved. But he didn't make it sound like, well, now we've got Carlos Correa's salary to spread around the league. So we'll see it. As it is now, the payroll is less than $100 million for next year, and that would be that will not help Joe's popularity at Target Field.
No, it wouldn't. I mean, obviously, you can win with small payrolls. You mentioned the Tigers and Guardians. I mean, the Guardians are battling for a playoff spot. The Tigers are in first place. The Brewers and the NL have a lower payroll than the Twins by a considerable amount, and they have the best record in baseball. It's hard to win consistently like that, and it's hard to win a World Series if you can't spend like that. So I think that's the concern, right?
Yeah, it's hard to absorb players that don't develop as projected too, and the Twins are going through a lot of that. Eddie Julian and Jose Miranda have been the examples we can point to all year, but Trevor Larnach hasn't had the season that they had hoped. Matt Wallner is up and down. Royce Lewis is suddenly slump prone, hot and cold kind of guy. When you miss on those, it sets you back for several years, and fans don't want to hear that. So it kind of puts a lot more pressure on the management of the team, which we should also add, it was not really discussed much with in my interview with Joe, but it seems pretty clear that Derek Falvey and Jeremy Zoll, and I would assume Rocco Baldelli, are a lot safer today than they were yesterday.
Well, I was going to mention that. Maybe we can kind of finish up there. Like the baseball side of things, the business side of things, like this maintains a lot more status quo, probably, for better or for worse. If you were looking for a big shakeup, if you are not a Rocco supporter, if you think Falvey has kind of had his 9-year run and maybe it's time for something else, like those things that would have been much more likely with a full ownership transfer are not as likely anymore. And maybe Derek Falvey does get a chance to kind of do roster building 3.0 instead of just having 2 cracks at it.
Yeah, and Rocco's probably a separate case, but Derek Falvey defends him every chance he gets. So, but Derek in particular works with Joe Pohlad every day, just as he did with Jim Pohlad, Joe's uncle, who used to be the executive chair who ran the team, who also hired him. I know Jim was always very proud of bringing Derek and Thad to Minnesota, and really thought that now they had hit on a formula that would pay off eventually. And it has had, some successes, but overall we're in a pretty bad spot right now. It's been a underwhelming season, an underachieving season, but yeah, the status quo. It sure feels like he has full faith and confidence in the management team that they have in place right now.
That probably won't sell a lot of tickets for 2026 or the rest of this season. But I mean, winning
newspapers,
here's a lot,
though, right, Mike?
Yes, newspapers,
sure.
subscriptions.
Good.
Yes, this is good for us. Podcasts, things like that. I guess we'll wait and see. I think a lot of Twins fans right now are cautiously pessimistic, I would say.
The story's only been out for a couple of hours, but I haven't seen much caution.
No, it's true. Maybe just straight up pessimistic. Again, we'll see who these new minority owners are. We'll see how the rest of the season and the off season plays out. But yeah, I think that right now they're fighting a pretty big perception battle and a reality battle as well. And as much as they needed a good start to 2025 that they didn't really get, they could use a good off season and a good start to 2026 to start to win some of these battles again.
Maybe they could sign someone like Carlos Correa and then really take off.
You never know. Phil, appreciate it. Great work. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Mike. Good talking to you.